Welcome. Hi everyone. This is Jed, and for this particular video I'll be speaking about the topic of knowledge, more specifically the illusion of knowledge. So when we think about knowledge, we're usually kind of putting into our mind this idea that we have some information that we know, that it's some form of established fact or reality. However, that is in many ways often an illusion. We think we know things, but we can't really say absolutely, certainly for sure, that we truly know something. So we may have, let's say, read an article about something or watched a video about something. We may even have talked to a person and had information directly reported to us, and then we attach to that as some form of reality, as something that we know. Let's use the example of reading an article about a scientific study. So you read this article and it describes the study, the research, the study design, the data analysis, the conclusions. So it's a fact that we've read this article. It's a fact that certain things are written in that article. So from our personal perspective or point of view and experience, it's a fact that that article is there and that it says certain things. Now, is that all factual information? So did we personally get to observe that study being carried out, the data analyzed? Most likely you weren't personally involved in that process. So you don't have direct knowledge. You're just getting the second-hand information, and then you're in some way accepting or embracing that information in your mind. You're attaching to it and telling yourself that now you know something based on having read that article. There's the possibility that whoever created that article, whoever did that study, may have been flawed in what they did or what they wrote. So are you going to know if that's the case or not? You might discover that in some manner at some point, but for the moment you can't really know if that's the case or not. There are many things in life that are kind of like this, where there's something that we perceive or observe or we're informed about, and so we think it's all factual, but the factual part is that we've received that information, we've encountered it, and so it exists in our personal experience. Yet it's hard to determine, let's say, absolutely that that information is true and accurate. So it might not be something that we can attach to as pure knowledge. It might be something that we can explore further, that we can seek to get greater understanding of. But in terms of knowledge, we're kind of creating this illusion of knowledge. This idea that we absolutely with certainty know something when we can't really prove with absolute certainty that this information we have is completely factual and therefore pure knowledge. So when we get into any discussion or debate about any particular subject, I would say it's helpful to consider that we don't necessarily know what we think we know. We have information, we may have particular data, it may be a fact that we've received that information or data, that we've been informed of a particular phenomena, but do we truly have knowledge of it? That's another question, another matter. There are so many things in life where we would like to have knowledge. It gives you a sense of comfort or security to think you know something, to believe that you have the truth, whether it's something about your personal life and relationships, whether it's regarding history or science or some other topic of general discussion. It's nice to think that you know something, and then with that knowledge you may feel compelled to share it, to relay that information to other people. So if you think you know things, you might want to share that with others to quote-unquote spread the knowledge. But be careful, because often what you think is knowledge is the illusion of knowledge, and trying to impose that on other people may just create some alienation or resistance if they think they have knowledge that contradicts the knowledge that you think you have. So this often does create conflict, where different people believe they have knowledge of something, that they are correct or right, and then they get into a conflict or argument with someone else who has a different idea that they also think is knowledge. In these cases, of course, if the knowledge is conflicting, then both can't really be true. So someone has, somewhere along the line, received information that's not truly accurate. A lot of things that we believe are knowledge are really just kind of surface facts. So the significance or meaning of them depends on a lot more information that we don't have access to. So any given fact might have different meaning or interpretation or significance depending on other relevant information. And if we don't have all that other relevant information, then we could actually misinterpret the fact. Even though it's a fact, we can attach some inaccurate significance or meaning to it based on the context. So this is another thing worth considering. We could use the example of something that happens in the news and current events, where you're given particular pieces of information about what's observed to be occurring. So those could, at least on the surface, seem to be facts, but the whole story of what that means, of what's actually going on, might change if you had other facts, other relevant details or information. So you might rush to judgment about something because you only have a limited range of facts, and even if those facts are accurate, you might come to some inaccurate conclusion because you don't have all of the relevant context. So it's easy to create this illusion in our mind that we know something and that we have an accurate judgment about it, when we truly have very limited information, limited understanding of various phenomena. So we can proceed with some humility, considering that knowledge is something that's not as easily acquired as we often believe. Things are often not as simple, not as black and white as we would like to think that they are. So there's a lot more complexity to many phenomena or subjects. I hope that this brief discussion of knowledge and the illusion of knowledge has given all of us some things to ponder, to pause and consider. There are very few things that we can get really direct knowledge of, and direct knowledge is really the purest and most accurate form of acquiring knowledge, where something occurs in our own direct personal experience and we just embrace that as what it is. We don't try to generalize beyond that limited experience that we have. So let's say you happen to be walking along the street and you see a dog that's barking loudly. So in your personal experience, you've perceived that that dog is capable of barking loudly. You don't jump to the conclusion based on that experience that that dog is very frequently creating a lot of noise, since you don't have that additional information, that whole context to form such a conclusion. You just accept your own personal direct observation as what it is. You recognize that as knowing what you have personally experienced, but not imagining that you know things that go beyond that. So that's a very simple example, but it can be applied to really many things that we encounter in life, where we try to create this idea for ourselves that we have knowledge of things even when we really don't have knowledge. We may have a piece of information, a limited amount of facts, and then based upon that we decide to create this illusion of knowledge, since that's kind of how our minds tend to work. The mind desires knowledge. Knowledge gives it more comfort or security. It makes it feel that it can make a judgment about various things, that it's empowered to make valid decisions and so on. So for the mind, knowledge is useful and valuable. We just can benefit ourselves by recognizing how our minds tend to function and the flaws or limitations that can arise as a result of that. So I appreciate each of you for taking your time to tune in and watch this video. If you're interested in psychology, spirituality, holistic health, and wellness, I invite you to watch some more of my videos, and you can also visit my website. The website is phinsights.com. That's phinsights.com. For now, I'd like to wish each of you a wonderful day. Namaste.